Hello and welcome to this video tutorial brought to you by tutvid.com. Today we're going to take a look at styling a simple form with CSS. We're going to be hand coding the entire HTML page, well just about the entire HTML page and all the CSS. So you really actually wouldn't even need a Dreamweaver if you know a little bit of HTML already. You will be more than fine on your own using Notepad++ or any of the great coding applications available for the Mac, or any other coding applications for that matter available for PC. You could even use something simple like Notepad and just save it out as an HTML file. We're doing everything right within one HTML file. I do have one image here. It's this sort of gradient that almost makes this background look just a little metallic. It's very, very subtle. But that's the only image I use beside my background image here. But those are two images that you should be able to get for yourself very easily. Just an image. It's 500 pixels wide in case you want to make an image. And I wouldn't even be able to tell you how long it is. But it's not very, very long. So that's it. Just a repeating pattern background and one little image there. And you will be good to go. So let's hop over into Dreamweaver. And, well, here's the done HTML file. I'm actually going to close that. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new file within this folder here. So I'm just going to say new file and ignore all the rest of these files. I mean, you could just create a new file out here. The only reason I'm creating my file here is because my two images are in here, BG and form.bg. I'm going to call this form.html. And I'm going to double click and you can see it's blank. So now that we've done that, I'm actually just going to collapse the files panel because I don't need that anymore. I'm going to give it a title, but to stay true to ourselves, we're going to come into code view and give it a title. We're going to say styling a form. Alright, great. So we're going to hop down here into the body, and the first thing we need to do is create a div that is going to hold our form. So we're going to say div ID. It's going to have an ID of form wrapper. And close off that and close off the div tag. Hit enter, return a couple times, tab once to indent, and type the word form inside, or create a form tag, an opening form tag, and then enter return twice. Close the form tag off. I'm not going to include any attributes here with the form as far as going out and getting the PHP and the different things you can do with the form. We're just strictly setting this up so we can style it. Enter return a couple times, tab again to indent, and we're going to start things off with a field set. So we're going to type field set, and I'm going to give this field set a class. The reason I'm giving the first field set here a class is because I'm going to give it that background image. So I'm going to say class equals first. All right, simple enough, huh? Enter return a couple times, close the field set off, and then here within the field set, the first thing I want to do is place an H4 tag, which is basically going to say contact me. And then below the H4 tag, we're going to start with our label. So we're going to say label, and we're going to give this label a class. This is the only label we're going to give a class because it's our first label. So we're going to say class equals label1. Again, we haven't created this CSS class yet. We're going to get to that. Class label1, and it is for name. It's going to be for the input with the name of name. With that, we're going to close that off with an angle bracket. We're just going to type the word name, colon, space, and close off the label tag. And then here we're going to place our input. And we're going to say name is name. Just like so. Close that guy off. And then we're going to go to our second label. By the way, this has just set up our first input field and label next to it, the label which would be name. So that's going to be the input field that's going to collect the user's name, and this one will be for the email address. So we're going to say label for, again, remember we're not going to give this label a class, for email. We're going to say email, colon, space, close off the label, create the input, give it a name. Just say email here. Close that guy off. Great, we've created our first two inputs. Now we need to create a text area where somebody can place some comments. So again, we're going to say label. We're going to say this is for comments. We're going to call it space, close off the label tag, and then here create an opening text area. And all we're going to do is give this a name. We're not going to set a width. We're going to do all of that with CSS through our CSS section. So we're going to say name, comments, and we'll just close off the text area. So there we go. That's it for our first field set. We're going to create a second field set here just to hold the buttons for us. So we're going to say field set. There we go. And inside of here, we're going to place an input, and this is going to have a class of btn. Make sure you place your quotes. btn. I'm trying to breeze through this quickly here because the tutorial is really going to be focusing on the CSS, but you can pause it and copy my code if you like. and then a name of submit. So this is going to be the submit button. So we're going to say the type is submit. And it is going to have a value. Well, this is what it's going to say. We're going to make it say send email. And we're going to close that guy off and create one more input, which is going to also have the class btn. And this one's going to have a name of a reset, because this is going to reset the form if we need to. So the type, naturally, is going to be reset. It's going to reset the form. And the value will be clear form. Close that guy off. Great. I believe I have all the CSS I need, or excuse me, the HTML I need. We've got our form here. It's just whacked out crazy. We haven't styled it at all. Matter of fact, I'm going to open this up in Firefox. We're going to save the changes. Yes. Here it is in Firefox. I'm going to close the nice looking one, and it looks pretty rough. We still don't have that background. Let's drop that background in there using CSS. This is all the HTML, it looks like. So in order to drop this in using the CSS, we're looking for the head tags. We've got our opening and our closing head tag here, our opening head tag here. So after the title, I'm going to hit enter return 3 times. I'm going to open angle bracket. I'm going to say style. And I'm going to say type equals text//CSS. Closing angle bracket, enter return a couple times, and close that style tag. Now inside of here, we're going to have our CSS code. The first thing we want to target is the body. So we're going to say body, and we need to give it that background image. So we're going to say background, URL, open parenthesis, 2 single quotes, open parenthesis, 2 single quotes, close parenthesis. And here within the single quotes, we're just going to say bg.jpg. And simply put a semicolon there. And we're also going to go margin, colon, and we're going to say 0 for the margin, and we're also going to 0 off the padding of the body, just because we can. We're going to go ahead and just hop back into the browser and just refresh this, and voila, our background image has appeared, and everything looks to be working just fine. So what we want to do next is hop back into Dreamweaver, and we want to style the form wrapper. We want to grab this div here that is holding the form and center it up, size it up, get it all, margined and padded out, and give it a little border and some cool stuff. So in order to target an ID, just use the pound symbol or the hashtag, as some call it. So I'm going to say form wrapper, open and close curly brackets. And the first thing I'm going to do is give it a width. And the width is going to be 550 pixels. Now remember, at the beginning of this I told you make your image 500. That's because that image is not going into the form wrapper. That image is going into something that is 500 pixels wide. So don't second guess me, and don't second guess yourself. And then we're going to say background, colon, and we're going to give this a pound symbol, and I have this written down here. The color is AFC8DE. Should be a very light, sort of grayish blue. Great. Semicolon, and we're going to give this a margin. This is important that you get this part right. The margin of 2 M's, and then hit space 0. That's 2 M's on the top. Space for 0. Or excuse me, not 0. Auto on the right. 0 on the bottom, and auto on the left. Semicolon. And then we're going to give it some padding as well. Colon. And then here we're going to give it 2 M's of padding on the top. 0 to the right. 2 for the bottom. And 0 to the left. Semicolon. And the last thing we want to do is give this a border. So we're going to say border solid. It's going to be a solid border. It's going to be a 5 pixel border, and it's going to be a pretty light gray. So let's say F1, F1, F1. That looks pretty good. Semicolon. And let's check to see what we've done. Save your document, and you don't have to do any kind of previewing in the browser. As long as you already have it open in the browser, all you have to do is go to the browser and reload it. Okay? Great. Look at that. Look at how much that's already done. It's centered now. It's sized up. Our form within that div is still pretty crazy, but we're going to take care of that in just a second. So we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. All right. Oh, you know what I should do here? Let me make my text a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. I forgot to do that before I started recording. But I'm not going to restart right now. I'm going to leave it. And here's my code. Okay, we've got our style tags here. And here's the body CSS. Here's the form wrapper. If you had trouble with the HTML, there's a little bit of the HTML. And the rest of the HTML. Obviously pause wherever you need to pause if you haven't already been so frustrated that you have just given up by now. Alright, so what we need to do next is go ahead and we're going to target the form. So I'm just going to say form, and it's going to target, notice we didn't put the hashtag or the pound symbol there. This is targeting the tag form right here. No ID, just the form tag. So we're going to say form, open and close curly brackets, and we're going to give this a width of, you guessed it, 500 pixels. And a margin, make sure you spell margin correctly, margin of 0, auto, 0, auto. By the way, this margin 0, auto, 0, auto, what that's doing is it's centering that block level element, basically. You can imagine, like, if this was a div form, that would be centering it. Matter of fact, our form wrapper here, this auto right and auto left, that's what's centering it. Okay, so when you auto right, auto left something, set the margin left and right to auto, it's going to center that up, as long as it's not, as wide as the user's screen. So here we've set a width 500 by 500, and it's going to center it based on the parent element, which is this form wrapper. So it's going to be, our form will be centered within the form wrapper. Great. Now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and target the labels. This is going to be pretty easy. The first thing we want to do is very simple. We just want to display these guys block. And actually, before I display them block, check it out. You can see here that they're all kind of in a line. Name, input, email, input, comments, and then the text area down here wraps around to the next line. We want these each to appear on their own line, so it's very easy to do. We're just going to simply say display, block. And that's telling these guys to stop displaying the way they are and display as block level elements. I believe they're displaying inline. So we're going to save that, and we're going to come out here and we're going to reload and check it out. Voila, lined up very nicely. Alrighty. A couple other things we have to add to label. Number one, we want to give these guys a margin. And here we're going to go 0.3 ems. Well, we don't need to have a space there. And then let's try 0, and then 0.3 ems again, and 0 again. Actually, excuse me, for left we're going to push them out about 2 ems. And we're going to give these guys a font family. This is basically choosing the font. We're going to choose Arial, Helvetica, sans serif, and semicolon there. We're going to give this font or this text here a color. So we're going to say color, semicolon, and we're going to use a, let's see what 88888, it's sort of a medium darkish gray, darker rather than lighter gray. And the last thing I want to do is just specify a font size. So I'm going to say font-size, and let's make this about 1em. Semicolon. All right, now that we've done that, let's check it out. Reload, and we can see our name, email, comments. They've all been bumped in, leaving the inputs behind. We'll take care of the inputs in a minute. So it's looking good, looking good. Let's head back to Dreamweaver, and we're going to add another line here beneath. So we've got our form code here, our label code here, and then on this line we're going to have our input code, where the code's styling our input tags. Again, when we're not putting a dot at the beginning would be a class style. The hashtag or the pound symbol would target, and these are just targeting tags. So input here, we're going to set the width to 250 pixels, I believe is what I had it, and then we're going to give it a margin, and here this is what's going to bump it out to the same approximately as our label. We're going to say 0 top, 0 right, 0 bottom, 2 ems for the left. That's what we have right up here in our left margin. 2 ems, looking good. Let's check it out. We're going to save it, hop back over to the browser, refresh, bumped them right over. Looks great. All right. So what we have left to do is target the text area. So we're going to say text area, open and close curly brackets. And here, again, we're going to set the width to 250, just like we did with our inputs. Place that semicolon there. And also margin, the same exact thing, 0, 0, 0, 2em. Semicolon, and I believe that's all we need to do for the text area. Let's reload our web browser. It looks great. What we want to do now is go ahead and tweak the field set. We want to get rid of this border. You have to be kind of careful with field sets and borders and legends. A legend is kind of like a cool looking little header. Here we could have put contact me up as a legend instead of its own little bit of text. But the problem is they can be kind of buggy from browser to browser, so I tend to stay away from legends. I mean, I do try to use them. Accessibility wise, legends are great, but here, because I don't want to go through all of the different fixes you would have to go through and just draw this tutorial out way more than I already naturally do, we're just going to stick with the H4 tag. But we still want to get rid of this border which is surrounding our field sets. So we want to do that, and maybe we also want to add a background color, because inside of a field set is where we're going to be placing that background image. So we're going to go back to Dreamweaver, and we're going to target the field set tag. And the first thing we're going to do is just say border, not broader. Border equals none. So kill the border. that border will be gone. And here we're going to say background, pound. Let's go with that same light gray we used before, F1, 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 semicolon. And here we're just going to give this some padding. We're going to say 0, 0, 2 M's, 0. So that should give us 2 M's of padding on the bottom of our field set. And let's test this out and see what it looks like. Make sure you save your HTML document. Let's refresh out here. Looks great. So remember that here with our field sets, we actually gave our first field set a class ID, or a class name, excuse me. We specified this class, your field set class first. That was so we could add that background image to the background. So let's do that right now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say field set dot first. So it's looking for a field set with the class first. And we're going to go ahead and say, hey, background. Well, first and foremost, we want it to stay F1, F1, F1. But we also want you to attach this URL. So URL, open and close parenthesis, open and close single quotes, and we're going to say form bg.jpg. That's what I named mine. And because it's right here in the same folder as my HTML document, that's all I have to do to reference it. And then right here afterward, I actually want to throw in a no repeat, so it only shows up once. Place a semicolon, and we should be good to go. Let's save it. Okay, you can see just flat gray. Let's reload, and you can see now there's sort of like a shine. And we have a slight problem. You can see the image here, which is 500, I told you. Looks like it should be stretching to 550, but no, it's my mistake. There must be a mistake here in the CSS. More than likely, it looks like our form is actually as wide as the parent div, which would be 550. So let me go check that here under form, width 500. It looks good, except we forgot to put a colon there. All right, let's save that and reload it and check it out. Looking good, centered up. Our image is now filled across. So if something happens that's wrong, don't freak out. Just look, and usually it only takes a little while to find it there. So now that we've done that, where were we? Okay, we have our background image here. It's not repeating. What we want to do now is also remember here, our first label has this class label1. So let's create that class. So we're going to say dot label 1. Open and close curly brackets, and I'm just going to simply give this a margin top. I'm going to specifically say margin top because we don't want to mess with the rest of our labels at all. So I'm going to say margin top 1M. Let's save that and see what it does. Make sure it doesn't mess anything else up. We'll reload. Okay, and we're good. We haven't disturbed anything else. All right. So now that we've done that, we're going to go down and we're going to create the BTN class, which is what we had down there styling our buttons. Okay, see the class BTN, class BTN. And basically all we're going to do is set a width and a couple other things. So we're going to say width, let's go with like 100, maybe 125 to be safe. I can't remember how much text I put in these buttons. And we're going to give these guys a margin. We're going to say 0, 0, 0, 2M. And a font family. And we're going to choose, let's go with the Arial that we've been using. And also a color. I'm actually going to make this color a dark gray, so I'm going to say 555. I like to put all 6 numbers, I don't know why. And then we're going to give this guy a font weight, say bold, semicolon. Let's see what this looks like. Save your HTML document, bring it back out to the web, refresh. We got both our buttons lined up. They got the dark gray bold text in them, looking good. Alright, so the last thing here that we need to do is style up our contact me bit of text right here, the H4 tag. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to target this. I'm going to say form H4, which is going to only style the H4 tag within the form. So if I had other H4 tags on my page, I wouldn't have to worry about messing them up. Open and close curly bracket. And first thing I'm going to do is give this guy a margin. So we're going to say margin. 0, let's give it 1.5 M's to the right, or no, wait, we need 1.5 on the bottom. Let me erase this, I got mixed up. 1 M down from the top, we would go 0 from the right would be kind of pointless right now. Let's give it 1.5 on the bottom, and then let's say 2 from the left. 2 sounds about right. Let's go font size, And in this case, 1.2 M's is going to look pretty good. Again, we'll go font family and just make sure that we have that Arial specified there. And we're going to give this guy a color, colon, pound, and we're going to say CD, 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 which should be sort of light-ish gray. And then last but not least, we're going to make this guy bold as well. So font weight, colon bold, and then semicolon, just like so. Save your HTML document. Let's check to see how badly we messed things up. And it looks pretty good to me. So there you go. That is how we've styled this. We've just written all of this CSS code. And all of that CSS code, each little bit is targeting a different part of our form and styling a different part of the form. And when I'm working with CSS like that, I really like to preview it in a browser. That way you can see how badly you're messing things up, because Dreamweaver isn't always a very accurate depiction. Matter of fact, I'm going to put myself kind of on the spot here, and I'm going to check it out in IE. It should be working just fine in IE though, and you can see in fact it's working wonderfully in Internet Explorer, and we all know how finicky Internet Explorer can be. I hate it so much I can't even bear to look at it for more than a few seconds a day. So there we have it. We have styling a form with CSS. We've created all this great CSS. I'm kind of shocked that I got through it with only making one little error there. Although I guess it's not a huge amount of CSS, but at least you got to see how you go back through and kind of locate what you got wrong there, that little width issue. And there we have it. We have written all the HTML and CSS to create this nice little form that's sort of floating over the striped background, styled it up, and that's it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you learned a thing or two. Again, because it's all code, just feel free to pause it and just take your time with the code. Don't let it frustrate you. Don't work against it. Work with it, and you'll get through it just fine. So that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Go check out the site. That's www.tutvid.com. Thanks for watching.